Thank you all for coming today in this evening. My name is Faiham Ebna Sharif. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm a journalist and photographer. As Jake mentioned, I studied in international relations, but I ended up being in the visual media. I found this might be the way to work on diplomacy. Use this visual media for diplomacy. I didn't ended up being a diplomat, professional diplomat the way you see it. My personal projects are mostly documentary photography. I'm documenting different issues, human rights issues, and few other issues as well. Currently, I'm working on tea garden workers, the terrorism issue evolving around the whole world. I'm planning to work on few other issues as well, like women rights issue. Oh, I forgot, I'm also working on the Bangladesh film industry as well, a kind of cultural studies perspective on the film industry. Yeah, so let's have a look to a few of my photos on children. I should have mentioned before, actually, my photos were taken different parts of the country. Basically, I took photos in slums, villages, as I'm working in the tea garden area right now, so in the tea gardens, so in many places. There is no specification about these photos. As we are talking about children right today, that's why I thought it would be a good idea to show a few of my work on children right as well. Yeah, how I started working and how I'm connected with this children right issue today in the Hague talk. It was the last year. I thought it's just another assignment. I was going to the tea garden area because there was some movement going on for their land right. If you heard of Bangladesh and a few other South Asian countries, they grow tea. The tea you are taking every day, traditionally and historically, it used to come from the Indian subcontinent and few other countries like China, Japan, and few other countries. But nowadays, it's expanded in few other countries as well, like African countries are producing it, Japan is producing it, China is producing it. But it's mostly from Indian subcontinent. That was the history. And it was basically the British people who originated the business in Indian subcontinent. Oh, so yes, there was a tea gardens workers movement in Bangladesh that I heard of. I live in the capital, Dhaka city, and the tea gardens are much more confined towards the eastern region of the country where we have small hills. We don't have mountains to, for serious trekking, skiing, something like that. We have small hills. So we have the tea gardens. So I heard of something happening in that area. Some movement is going on. People are, talking about rights and everything. And yeah, I'm not into permanent job nowadays. I used to work for television. I quit job because if I have a permanent job, that impedes me doing on my own project what I want to work on. So yeah, nowadays I work on assignments with contractual basis for some organizations. Like I was going there for an online portal in Bangladesh that I'm contracted with. So I was just thinking that let's go to another assignment. I started from the capital city, Dhaka, and a fellow of other people was joining me as well. I started going towards the tea garden area, and we ended up reaching there pretty late in the evening. It was pretty late. And if I give you a few idea about the tea garden area, tea garden people, the people who are working in the tea garden, they are really, confined in the geographical area of the tea garden. In our country, we tell it tea state. The state comes with E. It starts with E, state. So some friends used to tell it's a state within a state. It is. I mean, it's a state within a state. I mean, officially, you can't get into a tea garden area without permission, not even to the place just beside the highways. And if you see photographs or if you Google photographs of tea garden, Bangladesh, India, and Sri Lanka, you will find beautiful pictures which is taken just beside the highways. I mean, if you drive towards the highway, through the highway, you will see there is slopey hills just beside that. Tea garden workers are working there. You stop your car, go down there, have some photos. Today's people are taking selfies there with the tea garden workers. Come back, ride onto the car again, drove back and said, yeah, we have seen tea garden. I mean, that's fabulous. There are different people, good color, different complexion, ethnically different. And it's so exotic to people to see those things, usually. But the story is totally different. The garden, the life, people usually see just beside the highways, high roads, on these slopey hills. It's totally different if you get entered to the tea garden workers' colony. It's much more known as labor colony or labor line. That's what, it's tagged by the British people, so it's still known as colony or line. If you want to know a little more about tea garden and the children, it's very tough to tell you, just in a talk like this. Because the wage that the people get there, a permanent worker get there, it's less than €1. If you know about the Bangladeshi currency, a permanent worker in tea garden right now, in a A category tea company, which means the best quality tea garden, gets 85 taka a day. That's only for the permanent workers. That means less than €1. Now, once I was traveling to, here, the currency exchange rate was 88 taka for €1 in my country. And in my country, a tea garden worker is getting 85 taka for a day. But they get shelter, they get medical card, rations, and things like that, which are written on the papers. But in reality, what they get, it's just social exclusion. In reality, what they get, that is a life of a bonded labor. These people were took to Bangladesh almost 160 or 70 years back from different part of India. If you heard of the name Assam, Orissa, and few other places. You can name few other places. From there, they were taken to Bangladesh to cultivate the tea, for cultivation of the tea. And they were misguided in that time. They were told that if you go to some place where you have jungle, you go and shackle the tree and you will get money, you will get gold. And that's how the British colonial rulers and the businessmen took them from different parts of India to Bangladesh in trains. And from then, they started living into those areas. They are confined in those tea states' geographical location, and it's a bonded labor situation because with this pay, with these facilities, you have no other life. By the law, the companies should provide schools, medical care, and many other things, in the papers written in English. If you see those papers, it looks fancy. In Bangladesh, we have the oldest trade union that is only for the tea garden workers. Nowadays, you heard a lot about the ready-made garments industries, where we are trying to put up a functional trade union. But in tea garden, it's like almost 70, 80 odd years old trade union. But this trade union is doing nothing. In most of the cases, these trade union leaders are connected with these owners. And what happened to their kids? Just think about it. Once the parents is not paid enough to live a life, what would happen to these kids? Just think about a unique situation or maybe an ideal situation where both the mother and father is working as a permanent worker. That means they're earning 85 plus 85, 170 taka, less than €2. And if they have kids back in home, there is no school. I mean, there is school. I mean, in names, in papers, there are school. Maybe in a garden of 20,000 workers, there might be one primary school which is up to grade 5 with no teachers on it, or maybe one teacher who seldom comes to school to take classes, and he or she needs to take all the subjects all together. You have to crawl in front of the school like that. That's the reality in the tea garden areas. The children are, in most cases, the children are also working or helping their parents in household chores. Because if you go to the tea estate area, you will find that it's written child labor is prohibited. It's a fancy thing there, because to get a job in tea garden, most of these children show their age in papers much more than their actual price, because then you get entitled to get a job in the garden. So in de facto, they have child labor, but at the same time, the de jure situation is like that. In papers, in every document you ask for, there is no child labor in tea garden. Okay, accepted there is no child labor in the tea garden. But what these kids would do if they don't have a job in the tea garden? They would do work outside the tea garden. Most of these tea garden areas are confined in a little suburban areas than the city areas. So you will find bazaars, villages, agricultural lands beside these tea gardens as well. So the kids can go outside and work. And in many cases, you will find these kids go out with their mother to the garden, because most of the women are doing the plantation work. It's the women who do the plantation work, and it's the men who works in the factories. Tea industry is a different kind of industry where you need manufacturing part and agricultural part as well. So the agricultural part is much more relied on the women, and the manufacturing, the industrial part, the factory part is much more relied on the men. So you will find if the children is not working outside, not staying in the house, he or she most likely accompanying her mother in the garden. They help their mother to pick, tea leaves. It's very common in the tea garden. I guess everybody here drinks the tea. It's world's second most popular drink. Doesn't matter how Coke or Pepsi is doing business, anyone is doing business, it's the tea after water, which is the most popular and famous drink in the whole world. I believe at least 90% of these present people here have drank tea, taken tea, at least once in your whole life. Did you ask where it came from? Did you try to understand how this tea came to your cup? And that's why I started working on this tea garden, people. It's no way connected with many things maybe, but I still believe I have some sort of duty and responsibility to work on this issue. And if I just ask that you should ensure children's right, I cannot just ask it on the street. I cannot just write it on the Universal Children Day on Facebook, Twitter, on any other social media account, or just putting some posters or wearing some t-shirts or going out to the street and asking people to donate money for these kids. I would rather think, I should act. And that's why I started working on this tea garden issue. And part of my work is on children's rights, because I believe if I want to raise the issue of tea garden, I have to raise the issue of the children as well. It's a structure I'm questioning about. If you are not giving proper wage to their parents, you are also violating the rights of the children. That's my hypothesis.